Have you ever met someone who saved diligently for decades, built up a comfortable retirement nest egg, and then proceeded to destroy their financial security within a few years of retiring through habits and behaviors they didn't even realize were dangerous? Maybe you've heard stories of retirees who ran out of money way earlier than they expected, or people who spent their entire retirement stressed about finances when they should have been enjoying the freedom they worked their whole lives to achieve. Yeah, retirement isn't just about having enough money saved. It's about breaking the habits that can silently destroy that money faster than you ever imagined possible. My name is Roshan, and I spend way too much time analyzing why some people thrive in retirement while others struggle despite having similar starting balances. If you're already retired or approaching retirement and you want to avoid the devastating habits that can turn your golden years into a financial nightmare, make sure to hit that subscribe button because today we're exposing the 4 most dangerous retirement habits that you need to break immediately before they wipe out everything you've worked for. Let me start with the habit that destroys more retirements than any other single factor, and it's something that seems completely harmless on the surface. Maintaining your pre-retirement spending level without adjusting for your new income reality. When you're working, you have a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks. You spend money freely because you know more money is always coming. You develop spending patterns based on that regular income. Dinner out twice a week, new clothes whenever you want them, upgrading your phone every year, taking nice vacations, subscribing to every streaming service. These habits feel normal and sustainable when paychecks keep arriving. But when you retire, everything changes, except most people's spending habits don't change with it. You're no longer earning a salary, you're drawing down from savings and investments. That's a completely different financial situation that requires completely different spending behavior. But most retirees keep spending like they're still working, at least for the first few years. They're so used to their lifestyle that they don't adjust it to match their new income reality. This is financial suicide. Here's why this habit is so devastating. Let's say you retire with $1 million saved. You plan to follow the 4% rule and withdraw $40,000 per year to live on. That's reasonable and should be sustainable for 30 years. But you've been spending $60,000 per year during your working years because that's what you could afford on your salary. You retire thinking you'll naturally spend less, but your habits are deeply ingrained. You keep spending $55,000 or $60,000 because that's what feels normal to you. You're now withdrawing 5.5 to 6% of your portfolio instead of 4%. That might not sound like a huge difference, but it's catastrophic over time. At a 6% withdrawal rate, your money will likely run out in about 20 years instead of 30. You've just reduced your retirement security by a third because you couldn't break your spending habits. And here's the really insidious part. You don't notice the problem for years because your account balance declines gradually. By the time you realize you're in trouble, you're 75 years old with limited options to fix it. Breaking this habit requires brutal honesty about your spending in the first year of retirement. Track every dollar. Compare your actual spending to what you plan to spend. If you're exceeding your sustainable withdrawal rate, you need to cut spending immediately, not next year or when it becomes a crisis. Every year you overspend in early retirement compounds the damage and reduces how long your money will last. You need to adjust your lifestyle to match your retirement income, and you need to do it right away, not gradually over several years. The second habit that destroys retirements is treating your portfolio like it's still in accumulation mode instead of distribution mode. During your working years, you were trained to take risks, invest aggressively, and think long-term. You had decades for your investments to recover from downturns. You were adding money every paycheck, so market crashes were actually buying opportunities. This aggressive, growth-focused mindset was appropriate when you were accumulating wealth. But the moment you retire and start withdrawing money instead of contributing it, the entire game changes. You can no longer afford to take the same level of risk because sequence of returns risk becomes your biggest threat. If the market crashes 30% in your first year of retirement and you're withdrawing money to live on, you're forced to sell shares at depressed prices. When the market recovers, you have fewer shares to benefit from the recovery. This sequence can permanently damage your retirement, even though the market eventually comes back. Yet, countless retirees keep 80% or 90% or even 100% of their portfolio in stocks throughout retirement because that's what they did during accumulation. They're still in wealth-building mode mentally when they should be in wealth preservation mode. When the inevitable market crash comes, their portfolio gets cut in half right when they can least afford it. They panic, sell at the bottom, and never recover. or they stay invested but are forced to withdraw so much during the downturn that their portfolio never fully recovers even when markets do. Breaking this habit means restructuring your portfolio for distribution phase instead of accumulation phase. This doesn't mean selling all your stocks and going 100% bonds, which creates its own problems. It means creating a bucket strategy or some other approach that protects you from sequence risk. Keep 1 to 3 years of expenses in cash or very safe investments. Keep another 5 to 7 years in moderate risk assets like bonds. Keep the rest in stocks for long-term growth. This way, when stocks crash, you're not forced to sell them at depressed prices. You draw from your safe buckets while waiting for a recovery. It also means being more conservative in general as you age. The old rule was to hold your age in bonds, so a 65-year-old might be 65% bonds and 35% stocks. Modern longevity suggests you can be more aggressive than that, but you definitely shouldn't be 90% stocks at age 70. As you get deeper into retirement, you should gradually reduce risk because you have less time to recover from downturns and are withdrawing more money, which amplifies the damage from market volatility. The third retirement-destroying habit is one that catches people completely by surprise because it feels generous and loving at the time. Continuously supporting adult children and grandchildren financially without setting clear boundaries or limits. You retire with $800,000 saved. You feel comfortable. You're not rich, but you're secure. Then your daughter loses her job and needs help. Your son can't afford his mortgage payment. The grandkids need money for activities. Your adult children face one financial crisis after another, and you feel obligated to help because you have the money and they're struggling. So you start writing checks. $5,000 here for emergency car repairs, $10,000 there for a down payment, $20,000 to help with medical bills. Each amount seems reasonable and affordable in isolation, but over 5 or 10 years of retirement, you've given away $150,000 to your kids. That's nearly 20% of your retirement savings gone, and it's never coming back. That $150,000 would have grown to $300,000 or more if you'd left it invested. By helping your kids, you've potentially destroyed your own retirement security. Here's what makes this habit so destructive and so hard to break. Your adult children are your children. You love them. You want to help them. You feel guilty having money when they're struggling. Every request for help comes with a legitimate-sounding reason and a promise that this is the last time they'll need help. Your parental instincts override your financial judgment. You convince yourself you can afford it, even when the math says you can't. But the brutal truth is that your children are adults with decades of earning potential ahead of them. You don't. If they make financial mistakes, they have time to recover. If you give away your retirement money and run out, you have no way to earn it back. You can't go back to work at 80. You can't take out loans. You become dependent on those same children you were trying to help, except now you need far more help than you ever gave them. You've made everyone's situation worse by not setting boundaries. Breaking this habit requires having difficult conversations with your adult children before you give away too much money. You need to establish clear rules about what you will and won't help with financially. Maybe you'll help with genuine emergencies, but not with lifestyle subsidies. Maybe you'll give a certain amount total over your lifetime, and that's it. Maybe you won't help at all because preserving your own financial independence is your first responsibility. Whatever boundaries you set, you need to communicate them clearly and stick to them, even when it's emotionally difficult. You also need to understand that helping your adult children financially often doesn't actually help them in the long run. It creates dependency and prevents them from learning to solve their own financial problems. The most loving thing you can do is remain financially independent throughout your retirement so you never become a burden to them. That means saying no to requests for money even when it hurts. Your job is to take care of yourself in retirement, not to subsidize your adult children's lifestyles at the expense of your own security. The fourth habit that destroys retirements is living like you're going to die at exactly your life expectancy instead of planning for the very real possibility that you'll live much longer. When people plan for retirement, they look at life expectancy tables. The average 65-year-old will live to about 84 or 85, so they plan for a 20-year retirement. They calculate that their savings will last 20 years if they follow their planned withdrawal rate. Mission accomplished, right? Wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Life expectancy is an average, which means half of all people live longer than that. If you're a healthy 65-year-old, there's a very good chance you'll live past 85. There's a reasonable chance you'll live to 90 or 95. There's even a decent chance one member of a married couple will live past 100. Planning for only 20 years of retirement when you might need 30 or 35 years is a recipe for running out of money while you're still alive. This habit manifests in spending too much in early retirement because you're assuming you only have 20 years. You take expensive trips, you buy the nicer car, you spend freely because you figure you'll be dead by 85 anyway, so you might as well enjoy it. But then you hit 85 and you're still alive and healthy. You look at your account balance and realize you've got maybe 5 more years of money, but you might live another 15 years. The math suddenly becomes terrifying. Breaking this habit means planning for a longer retirement than your life expectancy suggests. If you retire at 65, plan for your money to last until 95 or even 100, not just to 85. Yes, this means you need to save more or spend less. Yes, it's conservative and you might die with money left over, but the alternative is far worse. Running out of money at 88 and living another 7 years in poverty is not an acceptable outcome. You can't go back and earn more money at that age. It also means front-loading your spending to some degree. If you're going to travel and do expensive activities, do them in your 60s and 70s when you're healthy and active. Don't save all your fun for later years when health issues might prevent you from enjoying it anyway. But you need to balance this front-loading with the reality that you might live to 95 and you still need money for basic expenses. It's a difficult balance, but planning for longevity is essential. This habit also requires staying flexible with your spending throughout retirement. If you're 80 and your portfolio is doing great, you can afford to spend more. If you're 75 and your portfolio took a big hit, you need to spend less temporarily. Sticking rigidly to your initial withdrawal plan regardless of circumstances is dangerous. You need to adjust based on your actual portfolio performance, your actual spending, and your actual age and health status. Here's what ties all 4 of these habits together. They're all examples of failing to adapt to the new reality of retirement. You're no longer earning a paycheck, so you can't spend like you are. You're no longer accumulating wealth, so you can't take accumulation-level risks. You have limited ability to earn more money, so you can't give it away freely. You might live longer than expected, so you can't plan for average life expectancy. Retirement requires a completely different mindset and different behaviors than your working years did. The people who thrive in retirement are those who successfully make these mental and behavioral shifts. They adjust their spending to match their withdrawal rate. They restructure their portfolios for distribution instead of accumulation. They set clear boundaries with adult children about financial support. They plan for living longer than they expect. These aren't complicated strategies, but they require discipline and the willingness to break habits that served you well during your working years but are dangerous in retirement. The people who struggle in retirement are those who keep living like they're still working. They spend too much, take too much risk, give away too much money, and plan for too short a time horizon. These habits slowly erode their financial security until one day they wake up at 78 years old and realize they're going to run out of money. At that point, there's very little they can do to fix the situation. The time to break these habits is immediately after retiring, not 10 years later when the damage is already done. So there you have it. The 4 habits you must break immediately if you're retired are maintaining pre-retirement spending levels without adjusting to your new income reality, treating your portfolio like it's still in accumulation mode instead of distribution mode, continuously supporting adult children financially without boundaries, and planning for average life expectancy instead of the possibility you'll live much longer. Any one of these habits can seriously damage your retirement. All 4 together will almost certainly result in running out of money before you run out of life. If you're retired or approaching retirement, examine your own behaviors honestly and break these habits now before they break your retirement. Make sure to subscribe because we need to talk about what actually works in retirement instead of what destroys it.